Hi guys, welcome back to Challenge 8 of Next Top Nail Artist Season 6. This week is sponsored by our show sponsor Kupa, and the theme is a Triptych fix. So Kupa's sponsor pack this week was absolutely insane. We were sent their new Triptych coloured acrylic powder collection, but the real showstopper was the Mani Pro Passport e-file. I mean, for starters, it's pink. Well, mine is anyway. But it literally cuts like a hot knife through butter, and it's also very, very light, and you can barely feel any vibration. So if, like me, and I know this affects a lot of nail technicians, you suffer with carpal tunnel syndrome, I'm not exaggerating when I say it is life-changing. So in honour of the Mani Pro Passport, this week is a carving challenge. So this video is going to concentrate on the carved elements of this design rather than the sculpted pieces. So I do have a bit of a confession to make. When I first read the brief for this, I was like, oh cool, triptychs, like those giant plants that killed everyone. And then I was like, oh my god, Nix, you idiot, that's Triffids. So a triptych is a piece of art that is either split into 3 parts or 3 individual works of art that are supposed to be enjoyed together. So traditionally they'd feature religious objects, religious icons, or objects of adoration. So I thought, what do I adore? Frogs! So I am lucky enough to have 4 of my very own little green babies. So I have Ichabod and Tituba, my white tree frogs, and Ambrose and Hecate, who are my European green toads. So I kind of wanted to include them, but I kind of still like the idea of the Triffids. So where the colours we were sent were very sort of bright and acidic, I had this idea of doing like a psychedelic, trippy, kind of poisonous garden as like the theme to my design. I collected some images of some really cool looking mushrooms, toadstools and flowers that were all highly toxic. And I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of frogs and toads are also highly toxic, although I think if you tried licking Hecate, you'd just make her really grumpy. So the main 3 nails of my triptych, I wanted to carve a Baroque style motif that was inspired by one of the mushrooms that you've just seen. And I thought I could emphasise the design by creating a colour gradient so that the deeper you carved into the nail, the darker the colour would appear. So I did this by mixing the 2 colours After Party and Your Friend's Ex-Girlfriend in varying quantities, so that there was a nice gradient, which you can see here. So these were the powders that I used, and then I layered them in thin layers, one on top of the other. I think a tip when carving is to take your time. So I do it in small sections. I draw out the design and then carve it, and then draw out the next piece. And I think for this one design I used about 7 different shape drill bits. To clean all the little crevices, I gave it a good scrub with a dry brush, and then I loaded a smaller brush with acetone, which dissolved any small bits of powder that were left, and it looked really clean. Because my design was feeling a bit of an Alice in Wonderland vibe, I decided to do a sort of melting, distorted checkerboard effect for my thumb and little finger. So this part took literally hours because each square was applied and then filed before the next one could be added. And my top tip for this is I actually used 2 separate dappen dishes of monomer and 2 separate brushes. Otherwise the white would have ended up being contaminated by the black and looking really murky, so that way it kept it looking nice and sharp and clean. I then layered up some layers of really bright acrylic so I could carve into it, revealing the colour and creating sort of a mushroom effect inspired by morel mushrooms, or the bridal stinkhorn, which I think is a fabulous name. So my final carved element was of course my little frog. So I built up acrylic to make like a little nubbin, and then I carved small holes into it which I could inlay with butternut, and then when I filed it back it would create some like little spots. And then once I'd finished carving the shape, I lined the eye sockets with rose gold foil so that it would make the eyes sort of glow once I filled them with clear acrylic, and then sort of added the final details. So that is my final design, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.